Good morning. This is Valerie Leonard again. I am so sorry. I had a little technical difficulty before and I heard noises or heard myself repetitively. And that was a little bit annoying. I want to say thank you so much for bearing with us. Again, I want to say thank you so much for taking time to join us this morning. My name is Valerie Leonard. I am the founder of nonprofit Utopia. For those of you who are just here for the first time, I just want to let you know that we are focusing our efforts this month in educating our viewers as well as our members on how to apply for federal grants. All right. And this is one of a series of 8 live streams. All right. So without further ado, I am going to share my screen and have at it. You can hold on for just a moment. Alrighty, so again, as I indicated before, we're talking about registering for federal grants today. And this is part of an 8-part series. As you might know, applying for federal grants is not for the faint of heart. It is a very complex process. And before we get into that, I just want to share with you a little bit of information about nonprofit Utopia. We're the ideal community for emerging nonprofit leaders. We provide a safe space where our members can innovate and share lessons learned. And our goal is actually to train the next generation of ethical nonprofit leaders. And the way we do that is through live streams like this. We also have an online community. We do consulting and podcasting and all of that good stuff. All right. And as I indicated before, we also, in addition to the things that I listed, we provide training opportunities, and we want to make sure that we train the next generation of ethical nonprofit leaders. And our overall vision is to train 50,000 people between now and 2033. If you want to learn more about us, you can go to nonprofitutopia.mn.co. That is our online community, and you can join today. And you can also learn more about us through our open website, nonprofitutopia.com. A little bit about myself. I have been in nonprofit management since 1993. Started off as a financial analyst on Chicago's West Side in the same hospital where I was born. I also ran a small nonprofit organization that gave out grants to the neighborhood. And I started my own consulting practice. And over the years, I've helped over 900 people to meet their goals and objectives and helped to raise over $100 million in federal grant funds through technical assistance as well as proposal writing. We have the Nonprofit Utopia podcast, of which I am the host, and we also do these live streams. And from time to time, I teach courses at the University of Illinois in their nonprofit certificate program, as well as from time to time I teach at Roosevelt University, teaching courses in social enterprise. So as I indicated before, this is a 8-week series, not 8-week, but an 8-part series. We've already gone through 3 live streams, and you can go onto YouTube and download those videos at your leisure. As if anybody has any leisure time, right? You can download one on assessing your organization's capacity for applying for federal grants. We also have one on federal grant funding life cycle. And we just did one last week on finding your way around Grants.gov. So today, we're going to actually show you how to register on nonprofit. I'm sorry, I want to say Nonprofit Utopia, we're going to show you how to register, but feel free to register with Nonprofit Utopia. You can go to nonprofitutopia.mn.co, but we're going to show you how to register at all three levels, all right? So that you at least can begin the process of setting up your account. We're going to talk about upcoming changes to the registration system, how to add a user profile, and then talk about the authorized roles for profiles and how you can track your roles. All right, and then we'll go into more detail on that on Friday. All right, so you might recognize this page. This is Grants.gov, and this is the page for registering your organization. And as you may or may not know, you can't apply for any federal grants unless you actually register on Grants.gov. And for those of you who may or may not know, or those of you who don't know, Grants.gov is an online portal, and this is a portal that has information for grantees, applicants, as well as organizations, or shall I say agencies within the federal government that have grant opportunities. So this is kind of a one-stop shop for people who are looking for grants for any federal grant, and it's also a one-stop shop for any agency that is preparing or that is letting a proposal out, as well as managing that process. Okay, and before you do that, and you may not be able to see that, I'm going to make this a little bit larger so that you can see it a little bit better. But you also need to have a tax identification number too, so that you're a recognized entity that the government can track for tax purposes, for procurement purposes, for grant writing purposes, and all of that. And then on the next page, or shall I say, not, it's the next slide for me, but further down the page, you will see that it's in fact a three-part registration process. So the first thing you need to do is get a DUNS number. And those of you who have a small business, you're probably familiar with a DUNS number that's given by Dun & Bradstreet. You can get that number by phone. So here is the 866 number, or you can actually register online. And most people I know register online. And it usually takes 1 or 2 business days to actually get your DUNS number. After that, you have to register with SAM. And SAM is the System Award Management System from the federal government. And that could take up to, 7 weeks. So, be sure to be as thorough and as patient as you can with this process. There are a number of questions that you should answer, and the process is not quite as long for nonprofits if they only want to apply for federal grants. But if you're a nonprofit that actually wants to do some competitive bidding, you're going to have to provide a little bit more information, and that's where the time could come into play, the extra 5 weeks, because they'll need to verify a lot of information. And then after that, you register with Grants.gov. So, you can conceivably within the next couple days get your DUNS number and register with Grants.gov, but getting all the information back from SAM may take anywhere from 2 to 7 weeks. Okay, so here is the website for Dun & Bradstreet. You should know that this is a separate website from Grants.gov. These pages are actually linked to the Grants.gov website, but they're not part of the Grants.gov website. So here is the home page, and it's basically giving you a little information about what a DUNS number is. It's a unique 9-digit identification number, and the federal government is actually in the process of migrating from DUNS to, a unique entity identification number. So if you're already part of the system and you have a DUNS number, you may also have that unique entity identifier as well. Um, and then you should also know too that the DUNS number is free. There are a number of agencies out there that seem to be official sites that are charging money to have you go through this free process. So if you see any site and you're trying to register for a DUNS number and they start charging you, that's a good indicator that you are not on the official um, Dun& Bradstreet website that has a relationship with the government where you can get those numbers. All right. And then, here is just a little history about the DUNS number, for those of you who are, interested in understanding how uh, the system has come about. And, there are over 280 million DUNS numbers worldwide. But the only one that you really care about is yours, right? Okay. And here is the page with FAQs. So I'm not going to go through all of this, but you should just know that if you're new to this process, and even if you're not new, if there are questions that you have before making the call, you might want to see if your question has already been answered under the FAQs. And here are the contact numbers. These are phone numbers as well as websites where you can get assistance. Okay, and then, they have privacy policies, and then they also make sure that the website is accessible. So for people with disabilities, you can also apply online and by telephone. The website is accessible as well as their phone system. Okay, so enough about Dun & Bradstreet. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, please feel free to share in the comment section. If you're just stopping through and want to say hello, say hello. If you have any experience with federal grants in terms of registration, if you can share some of your experiences, what it's been like for you. I know for me, it's pretty straightforward, although it can be a little bit time consuming. And you have to make sure you read carefully. But the good thing about the system is if you make a mistake, there are prompts to help you get back on track. All right, so once you get to the SAM.gov website, now this is the official website. So if you see this red flag and at the top left, it says an official website of the United States government, you know that you're on an official website. Again, there are many, many websites that have paid to be ranked even higher than the federal SAM.gov system. So you might think that you're on the federal government's website, and that's not true. The way that you know that you're not in the right place is anybody who is charging you to do this process, which is free. You really want to get out of that website because you shouldn't be paying for something that you can get for free. So once you go here, this is the front page, and we're not going to go through the whole navigation. We're just going to be focusing on what you need. You would click on to get started, and then that will take you to this page. Now, this is the entity registration home, which is a sub page for SAM.gov. You can register your entity, and that entity could be an individual, it could be a for-profit, it could be a nonprofit, it could be a municipal government, it could be a state government, whatever your organization type is, this is where you start. Okay, so it's a 4-step process. And the first step is to get your DUNS number, and that's the registration process that we just went through. The second step is to prepare your data. And then the third step is to get a login.gov account. And then the fourth step is to actually submit and finish. All right, so we have already gone through what you need to do to request your DUNS number. There's no need in going through that again. I mean, you'll be glad to know it only takes 10 minutes. After that, you need to really kind of stop what you're doing and look at this checklist of things that you need, because you don't want to be going back and forth between, your computer and other paper files or other computer files that you might have. You want to make sure that you have everything in one place. So you want to have your unique entity identifier or your DUNS number. Again, the government is slowly weaning itself from the DUNS system to the UEI system, the unique entity identifier. You want to have your legal business name, your physical address. It can't be a P.O. box. You want to have your entity type. Again, is it an individual, which we're not really focusing on today? Are you a corporation? Are you a nonprofit? Are you a government? And then you want to have general entity information. You want to have your TIN or your tax identification number and your taxpayer name. And this should be entered exactly as it is, on any official papers. If you need to do a copy and paste, you can do that just to make sure you don't have any typos. And then if you have a cage code, that's your contractor and government entity. Or if you are international, dealing with NATO countries, then you'll put that code there. The whole purpose for registering with the SAMs is to provide information so that they can get you a cage. If you already have a cage, chances are you've already gone through this process before. All right, you also need your financial and banking information. And then if you are a nonprofit, the only thing you need to focus on after that is, filling out the representations and certifications questionnaire, and then indicate who your point of contact is with your agency. And it's important too to keep that information current, because 9 times out of 10, if that's an employee, if it's a board member, people come and go. And you don't want to be in a situation where you don't have that point of contact always current. If that person leaves and they're still on your system, one, you don't want that person having access to your system, but two, you don't want to be in a situation where an opportunity comes up and you don't have a point of contact to actually coordinate that process for you. All right. And then, if you are going to be competing for other opportunities, if you're going head to head with for-profits, and you're actually going to be bidding on things other than grants, then you'll have to worry about this other information. So that would be things like the assertions section, the electronic data interchange, or your EDI information system. And, I'm not going to read through all of that. Chances are it doesn't apply to you, but if you're a nonprofit who is actually providing goods and services to the federal government or to other entities, then you need to concern yourself with those last few bullet points. All right, then after that, you want to get a login.gov account, and that's pretty simple, pretty easy to do. Here is a link to a quick start guide, and then you can also go to the login.gov page. And then after that, you want to submit and finish, and it should take you about 10 business days to get the initial information back from sam.gov. Those who are going through a more rigorous process, you could be waiting an additional 5 weeks. All right, so after you do that, then you want to complete your registration with Grants.gov. And you can see registering with Grants.gov itself is a much simpler process than going through the SAM system. You can either register by clicking onto that red button, get registered now, or you can go to the top right. And then they have even provided a video that will be helpful to you. All right, in the event that you have any questions. Okay, and you can learn more from the applicant registrations page. And if you are working for an agency that gives grants and your grant management responsibilities are new to you, then you would need to register as a grantor on the same system. Remember, this grants.gov site is for people who work for the government as well as those of us who are trying to do business with the government. And you as a nonprofit are trying to do business with the government by applying for grants. Now, this page here, this is the front page for the applicant registration. So, we've already kind of gone through the process of registering for a grants.gov account. And this page just basically, breaks it down step by step. It's a very simple process. You're going to provide, basic information in terms of, your username and email address. You'll create a password. You'll decide whether or not you want to subscribe to newsletters. And then you'll get a temporary code that'll go to your email, and then you verify. And then, if you want, you can add a profile, and you don't have to, but if you're going to be one who applies for grants, then you're definitely going to need a profile, right? And then you can also start on your workspace. So there's a link to the workspace overview page, and we'll go into workspace in a little bit more detail on Friday. There's, a whole lot to go into, and I don't want to overwhelm you with all of the details. And then I think it's self-explanatory to click onto the button to start the process. And this is what the fields look like, the fields that you have to actually complete, and then you can indicate whether or not you want to subscribe for grants.gov alerts. And I strongly recommend that you do, because this information, remember, there are over 1,000 opportunities on any given day, and that doesn't include information that could change from day to day, right? So it will really be to your advantage to sign up for the alerts and for the newsletter, so you can stay abreast of all the changes, because you could really miss something if you just rely on coming to the site from time to time. All right. And again, if you're going to actually be applying for grants, then you should add a profile to the grants.gov account. And when we talk about the grants.gov account, we're talking about the overall agency's account. And you can add a profile as an organization. You can add a profile as an individual, but 9 times out of 10, if you're working for a nonprofit, you're going to be doing this on behalf of the organization, and you may or may not be the point of contact, right? So some organizations, especially larger organizations, may have more than one person who has access to grants.gov. And, internally, they're going to have a point of contact. And then you may be one of the people, who is working with grants or working with the program, etc. Okay, so you go through the process. It will prompt you to actually, tell you everything that you need to do. I assure you, it's not a difficult process. And this page is basically going into your point of contact. So it's eBiz because remember, not only are nonprofit organizations using this system, but people who are small businesses as well. So it's the eBiz point of contact, and that is going to be the main contact in your organization. And as I indicated before, there are other people who will have roles, but they won't have access or the same permissions as the point of contact. And as I indicated before, you have to make sure that you keep this information current because you don't want to be in a situation where you're under the gun, you just found out about a new opportunity, and the person who is the primary contact is no longer with the agency. Okay, on Friday, we're going to go into more detail, but I just thought it would be important for you to understand the different roles that there are within Workspace. And Workspace is an area or a space that you use to actually, pull your grant documents together. And if you're working with more than one person, you can use this space to collaborate. But for right now, I just want to focus on the roles. The first role is the e-business point of contact. And again, e-business, if you're a nonprofit, you're a business, you just have a different tax structure. So that includes you. So this is the main person in your organization that has access to Grants.gov. And this person also has greater access or greater permissions than anybody else. You have this core role or an expanded AOR, and that is the agency contact. This is the AOR is the agency. I forget exactly what it stands for, but that's the main contact. And then you also have expanded roles for this person. I'm sorry, authorized. I'm sorry, it's an authorized representative. Forgive me, I was having a little brain cramp there. So your PLC is the person who has the most authority, so to speak, and has total access to everything. Your expanded AOR, that's your agency authorized representative, he or she has great access, but not as much as the POC. They can't change certain things. And that is for your protection as well as the agency's protection. And then you have a somewhat lesser role with the AOR, and that's the standard agency contact. And then you have one who actually can be the workspace manager. So he or she is managing all the documents that come through Grants.gov as you're preparing your application. You have a custom role and you can set that up. And then there are those who have no role. Okay, and we'll talk more about that on Friday. And then you can actually track your profile status and the role status. All right. So again, as people come and as they go, as they get greater permissions within the system, as you downgrade them, as you remove them from the system altogether, it's important to keep that up to date because as I indicated before, you don't want to be in the time crunch and you don't have all of your people in place where you can actually submit the application, right? And then in order to track the roles, you actually have to log into grants.gov, go into your account, and then, click onto the manage profiles, and then, you'll be prompted from there. All right, so I hope that has been helpful to you. You can look at this video on YouTube. You can also look at videos on grants.gov. But I hope I gave you enough information where if you wanted to, you can start immediately after watching this video. So We have 4 more live streams in this series. And remember, all live streams begin at 10 o'clock Central Daylight Time. Um, our next one is Friday, July 23rd. We're going to show you how to create a workspace, and we'll go into more detail about the various roles and the authorities of those roles and what they can and cannot do. On July 26th, we're going to take a break from grants, but we still thought it was important to focus on tax credits as a form of COVID relief. Everybody is pretty familiar with PPP and EIDL, but what most nonprofits and probably most small businesses don't know is that they can actually use tax credits as a form of COVID relief. And we're going to talk about that on the 26th. On the 28th, we're going to get back into the Grants.gov process, and we'll talk about strategy. So we're going to show you how to navigate Grants.gov, in the event that you're actually looking to apply for grants. We'll actually show you some examples of winning grants. We'll show you the forms that you need to fill out. Now, I will say that, this could be an all-day thing, and we don't have that kind of time. We're just going to spend at most an hour. So we're just going to give you an overview. If you are a member of the nonprofit Utopia community, you can actually set up office hours, and we can do a deeper dive into how you can be successful with your federal proposals. And July 30th, we're going to look at what you do once you get the grant, right? Show you how you can navigate grants.gov, so that you can manage the grant. And then we'll also give you some strategies as to how you can be successful at home, right? And before we finish the presentation, I just wanted to let you know about a few opportunities that we have coming up. Within the next week or so, we will have a master class on how to start a nonprofit in 90 days. So we're going to show you how to get this done right the first time. We will have online videos. We'll have checklists to help you stay on track. We will have every document that you need at the federal as well as the state level to get started, from start to finish. And then even after you get your 1023, there are a couple forms you're going to need to fill out. There will be opportunities to chat with me if you have any questions. I'll make sure that I review any forms that you have at the state level as well as the federal level before you submit them. And then we will, as I indicated, not only will you have access to all the official forms, the applications, but we will also provide workbooks and worksheets and other forms that will help you to flesh out your ideas. All right, so all of that for $175. If you are a member, you can get it for $125. And this is a course that you will take at your own pace, and it will be available for 90 days. All right, we also have coming up in September, starting September 10th, capacity building blocks. That will go from September 10th to February 25th. That is an intensive program where you are looking at all the major skills that you as a nonprofit leader need to have in place, all the processes that you should have in place in order to take your organization to the next level. So there are 14 different workshops that you have. You get to assess your leadership skills. You get to assess your organization skills. And after you do that, you can develop a leadership plan within the context of what your organization is trying to achieve. You'll even have a pre and post test so you can see how much you've learned over the course of the program. And if you're interested in that, you can email me at ValerieFLeonard@nonprofitutopia.com. And we also have a nonprofit founders challenge, and this is a companion to the nonprofit course. For those of you who feel like you need to have someone hold your hand along the way, we will coach you through the entire process. You do the work, we coach you, we tell you what to do, what not to do, we review all of your paperwork, you get checklists as well, and we will show you how to do this and get it right the first time. All right, so if you have any questions concerning anything that I just covered, you can email me at ValerieFLeonard@nonprofitutopia.com. If you're a member of the Nonprofit Utopia community, we have sample documents that you can review, and we also have other resources that you can review to get you in a stronger position. We realize that there's no guarantee anytime you submit a proposal, and we also realize that the federal grant proposal process is extremely competitive, and we're here to do whatever we can to help you strengthen or improve your chances of getting those grants. So, check out the resources that we have in the Nonprofit Utopia community. Feel free to join us. It's only $14.99 a month. You can go to nonprofitutopia.mn.co. You can find out more about Nonprofit Utopia, what we bring collectively at nonprofitutopia.com. So not only do we have the community, but we also do consulting, we do coaching, we have online courses. So, again, find out more about us at nonprofitutopia.com. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest. We try to stay active on as many social media channels as possible. All right, so I am done. I'm wondering if there's any one of us who has any questions, any comments. If so, feel free to post your questions. Feel free to post your comments. If there's something that needs a little bit more time, you can post your comment with your email address or even inbox me. I'm on Facebook, and we can set up some time where we can go through this. All righty, so I see one comment from Leslie. This was a beneficial walkthrough, Valerie. And thank you so much, Leslie. I really, really appreciate your taking time. Just so everybody knows, Leslie is one of the members of the Nonprofit Utopia community. She's extremely engaged, always has a kind word to say, always helpful, not only to me, but to other members of the Nonprofit Utopia community. Thank you so much, Leslie, for joining us. And thank you for sharing your expertise with the community. And this is from Shawana Jordan. Thank you. I truly appreciate the guidance. And Shawana, if you're still there, I truly appreciate your taking time from your schedule to, stop in. And even more so, I really, really appreciate those kind words. And before we go, if there are any more questions, any more comments, please feel free to post. And if I don't see any more questions or comments, I am going to assume that there are none, but you can look at this video, it'll be stored on our YouTube channel, and you can look at it over and over again. Feel free also to go to the Grants.gov page. You'll see that they have a number of resources as well. All right, so it looks like we don't have any more questions, no more comments. I want to say thank you so much for taking time from your schedule to join us. And be sure to come back on Friday. We're going to show you how to create a workspace and talk about what you can do at the various levels, how you can work as an individual, how you might use it as a consultant, how you might use it as a group of people who are collaborating on a proposal. All right. So I will see you on Friday. Take care. Bye bye.